Welcome to a brand new journey. We are launching on YouTube and Instagram. Get ready for Sri Siri Educational. Subscribe and follow us today.
Hello dear students, today we are going to start a new chapter from class 10 science, that is the chemical reactions and equations. In this session you are going to learn how the chemical reactions are takes place, how you can identify whether the chemical reactions are takes place or not, and this complete session help you to understand the key concepts of chemistry, and it will help to understand the bigger concepts like NEET and JEE. This class will help for the foundation of your NEET and JEE also. Let's begin with the class. And first, what do you mean by chemical reaction? A chemical reaction in which a process where chemical bonds are broken and new bonds are formed to create different substance, entirely new properties. Example, in your daily life, you can observe that digestion, respiration, rusting of iron. These are the example for chemical reactions. And that chemical reaction you are going to represent in a systematic way, then that is called chemical equation. Then what is meant by chemical equation? Here the chemical equation means the standard representation of a chemical reaction using symbol and formulas of reactants and products. And here that A plus B is an reactant and C plus D is an product. And always that reactants are represented in your left hand side and the products are represent your right hand side. And next, how you identify whether the chemical reactions are takes place or not? By observing the following situations. The first one is when the two reactants are react together, whether it will give gas, it evolves the gas, or whether it changes its color, or it changes its temperature, or it changes its state from liquid to solid, or solid to gas, like that. The first one is why the balance equation. What do you mean by balance equation? Balance equation, why it is necessary? The balance equation is necessary to satisfy the law of conservation of mass. Then what do you mean by law of conservation of mass? The law of conservation of mass means mass can neither be created nor destroyed in a chemical reaction. You learned this concept in your 9th class. Therefore, the total mass of the reactant must equal to the total mass of the product. So what is the tip for your NEET examination? In your NEET examination, this law of conservation of mass will balanced by stoichiometric coefficients. What do you mean by stoichiometric coefficients? We will discuss in that in the next slide. Let's start with the first one. Balancing the equation. Let's take an example of iron react with water here, and it gives Fe3O4 plus S2. And here, what are the reactants? Here the reactants are iron and water. And what are the products here? Fe3O4 and hydrogen gas is the product. And let's calculate number of reactants. And here it has one iron atom and two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom in the reactant side, and three iron atoms and four oxygen atoms and two hydrogen atoms in the product side. For balancing this equation, we have to multiply S2O by 4 to balance the oxygen. And now the final verification is 3Fe plus 4H2O, and it gives Fe3O4 plus 4H2O. Now you have to calculate that in a reactant side it has 3 Fe atoms and 4 H2O and 3 Fe and 4 O and 4 hydrogen atoms. And the first one is types of chemical reactions, and the first one is combination reaction. The first and very most important example in your textbook given a reaction where two or more reactants are combined to form a single product. What is meant by combination reaction? Combination reaction means two or more reactants combines together to form single product, that is called combination reaction. Here magnesium is react with oxygen, it gives magnesium oxide. Here you are seeing the reaction also that gives magnesium ribbon is burned with a dazzling white flame to form white powder of magnesium oxide. This is one of the important example for your examination purpose also. And next one is decomposition reaction. In decomposition reaction, there are three types of decomposition reaction. The first one is thermal decomposition reaction. And here, one reactant will be decomposed into two or more products in the presence of heat energy. That is called thermal decomposition reaction. In thermal decomposition reaction, heat energy is required to proceed the chemical reaction. And here, the given example is when lead nitrate is heated, it gives lead oxide plus nitrogen dioxide plus oxygen gas. What is the observation here? When the white lead nitrate powder emits brown fumes of nitrogen dioxide gas, the white color lead nitrate will emits the brown fumes of nitrogen dioxide. Then that tells about the chemical reactions takes place. And next one is electrolytic decomposition reaction. And very simple example they given here is water. When the electricity is passed through the water, the H2O molecules are decomposed into H2 and O2. And here 2 moles of water hydrogen. When H2O is decomposed into H2 and O2, the 2 moles of hydrogen and 1 mole of oxygen gas is released, because in water molecules it contains 2:1 volume ratio. That's why hydrogen is collected at cathode side is more in volume and oxygen at anode side is less in volume or less in amount. Next one is photolytic decomposition reaction. Decomposition in the presence of light, that is called photolytic decomposition reaction. The one of the important example is silver chloride is decomposed in the presence of sunlight. It gives silver plus chloride gas. What's the observation in this reaction is the white silver chloride turns gray as a silver metal deposited. A similar one more reaction is there. What is the reaction? You know, that is AZBR. That is a silver bromide decomposed in the presence of sunlight. It gives silver and bromide ion. That is also one of the important example. And these both reactions are used in black and white photography. And the next one reaction is displacement reaction. Before going to the displacement reaction, here we have to understand the concept of metal reactivity series. And most reactive metal is potassium and then sodium, next zinc, iron, hydrogen and gold. The potassium is most reactive metal. In the displacement reaction, the more reactive metal displaces the less reactive metal. Let's take an example. Here a single displacement case. When iron is react with copper sulfate solution, it gives the iron sulfate and copper. Let's observe here. This copper sulfate solution blue in color. When the iron nails is dipped in the copper sulfate solution, the color changes, you can observe here, and the blue color is fades out. Then the copper sulfate solution will turns into iron sulfate solution, because here the iron is more reactive than copper. That's why iron displaces the copper. And the next one is double displacement reaction. In the double displacement reaction, the exchange of ions between the two compounds to form a new compounds. Here the exchange of ions takes place. The first one example is sodium sulfate. When react with barium chloride, it gives barium sulfate and sodium chloride. And here the white color precipitate is formed. That white color precipitate it gives by barium sulfate solution. And the next one is lead nitrate. And here you can observe that this solution present in the conical flask is comes from when lead nitrate react with potassium iodide. It gives lead iodide and potassium nitrate. And what you are observing here, the golden flakes, it comes from the lead iodide, that is yellow in color. And this experiment is also known as golden rain experiment. See here, this looking like a golden flakes. And when lead nitrate react with potassium iodide, it gives lead iodide, that is bright yellow in color. And when barium chloride will react with sodium sulfate, it gives barium sulfate, that is milky white in color. And when silver nitrate react with sodium chloride, it gives silver chloride, that is curdy white to PPT it gives. And when copper sulfate react with sodium hydroxide, it gives copper hydroxide, then that is a pale blue in color. And this is also known as precipitation reaction. And next one is exothermic and endothermic reaction. When the chemical reaction takes place, if energy is released, then that is considered as an exothermic reaction. Example, burning of coal or slaking of lime. And in an endothermic reaction, the energy is observed. Example, photosynthesis and decomposition reactions. And next one is redox reaction. That is an electronic concept and a very, very important concept. Here, what do you mean by redox reaction? Redox reaction means the oxidation and reduction takes place simultaneously, then that is considered as a redox reaction. And then what is meant by oxidation reaction? Oxidation means loss of electron or addition of oxygen or removal of hydrogen. And here let's consider an example of zinc. It gives zinc 2 plus 2 electrons. Here zinc in its pure form, then it has oxidation number 0. When zinc loses 2 electrons, it becomes a zinc 2 plus, and the 2 electrons it loses. That's why it is the oxidation reaction. And here electrons, when gain of electron takes place in a chemical reaction, then that is considered as a reduction reaction, or removal of oxygen or addition of hydrogen is also known as reduction. Here in this case, copper already lost 2 electrons, that's why it is present in copper 2 plus state. When the copper gains 2 electrons, it becomes a copper. So here the gain of electrons takes place. That's why it's a reduction reaction. This concept. And what are the British concepts from this lesson is the stoichiometry. Use coefficients as a molar ratio to calculate the mass volume relationship. And the next one is spectator ions. That is, identify ions that do not participate in a displacement reaction. And next one is thermodynamics. That is, the calculate delta H value using bond dissociation energy. You observe that the delta H value is given in exothermic and endothermic reaction. And the oxidation state. Assign oxidation number to identify the oxidizing and reducing agents. If you have any questions regarding this concept, or if you want a more depth and detailed explanation for your JEE or NEET Foundation, let me know in the comment section. Thank you for watching.